The year is 2015, and NuckleDu has just won a major tournament featuring the best players of America with over 200 entrants. Now, the year is 2025, and NuckleDu has also just won a major tournament with over 200 entrants featuring the best players in America. The difference was in 2015, that was Combo Breaker, an offline major, and in 2025, that was just a random Wednesday on TNS. So as much as things stay the same, they're also very different in this era, which really got me thinking about what is actually the hardest era to compete in the world of Street Fighter. Speaking of Street Fighter 4 and beyond. So of course I had to assemble the squad here together. We got iDom back in the show as usual, but also we got a little special guest here. We got Rob TV back in the mix, because Rob, you've been grinding some Street Fighter 6. You're back in action right now.
Yeah, man, I've been training Street Fighter 6. It's definitely been a good time, and it's funny that you actually bring up NuckleDu, because you say things stay the same. NuckleDu, of course, one of my close friends. NuckleDu be getting his ass whooped in Street Fighter 6. Okay, let's go ahead and get that out there off the dribble. He been getting that ass tapped. I don't know why. I don't know what he got.
You trying to say Street Fighter 6 is harder to compete in than Street Fighter 4? What's up? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, Brian, before I let everybody know exactly why Street Fighter 6 is the hardest game to compete in when compared to Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5, bar none, I want to make sure y'all know that I got a new series called Agent Demon. Y'all know I used to be a pro player back in Street Fighter 5. Some of y'all who are newer might not actually know that. So now in Street Fighter 6, I am reclaiming my old glory. So I'm going from not knowing 6 at all as far as playing it myself to actually becoming godlike. Twitch.tv/RobTV Live. Y'all don't want to miss that. Now, the reason Street Fighter 6 is the hardest. Street Fighter 6 is by far the hardest to compete in. And I will tell you guys why. I got some notes down right now. First and foremost, right? It's the number of players that we have, point blank period. We just had, what, 7,000 something entrants at EVO when Angry Bird won that event. That was absolutely insane. 7,000 plus people.
It don't matter.
The amount of paper on the line, right? So people ask me, what's harder to win, EVO or Capcom Cup or EWC or winning Combo Breaker and this, that, and the third, all this stuff? Listen, wherever the most money at, that's the hardest tournaments to win. Easily, point blank period. You know what? When this man that we have right here with the long braids, right? Capcom Cup 2019 champion, right? I remember he plays against Punk the God. Now, at that time, Punk beat the hell out of iDom every single tournament, pretty much. It was bad. I felt bad for you, iDom, because you were so great, but Punk always would destroy you. But then what happened? It was all that paper on the line. It was that big of a moment, and iDom won. If that tournament was not Capcom Cup, if it was not $250,000 on the line, iDom would not be the Capcom Cup champion right now.
Or Street Fighter 5's just that random. And that this scrub over here, iDom, scrubbed out the most consistent player of the whole series. iDom, what do you got to say? I don't know. Maybe Street Fighter 5 is just random.
I want to, throw this out. That wasn't the first time I beaten Punk, Rob. I beat Punk 2017 Defend the North. So first of all, you gotta get your facts straight. I know. Okay. But also, you're bringing up all this, outside factors, money, and all this other stuff. How about we talk about actual gameplay? Like, for me, Street Fighter 5 was the hardest because that game was super bare bones. The better player usually won because you didn't have, like, your scrubby drive rushes, or you can hide behind your little crouch tech. We had to play basic fundamentals one-on-one. So, your other two games got all this, nonsense bullshit. We had to go straight, pure footsies and fundies.
That's facts, though.
Okay. All right. You're almost going to convince an old boomer like me that Street Fighter 5 was actually harder to compete in than Street Fighter 4. But basically, what we're going to do this show, we're going to each give our pitch for why we think each era was the hardest. I'm going to be representing Street Fighter 4, iDom Street Fighter 5, and Rob TV Street Fighter 6. And then we'll break it down and maybe get some feedback from you guys. What do you think? What was the hardest era to compete in? Whoa, that debate is getting pretty heated. And we'll get right back to which era was the hardest to compete in just a moment. But I wanted to let you know that Extra Trashy and Trash Talk are available in full video and audio over on Spotify. We're currently making a push to reach partner on Spotify, so if you're interested, we'd really appreciate you checking us out on that platform. And if you wish to support further, you can check us out over at patreon.com/Brian_F. There we have both free and paid content, like early access to mainline Trash Talk episodes, behind the scenes videos, and also free Street Fighter and fighting game related tutorials on that page. Okay, thanks for listening. Back to the debate. Let me get it set straight right here, right now. Street Fighter 4 was absolutely the hardest era to compete in. First of all, I like what iDom brought up. I like what iDom brought up right there. Gameplay. Street Fighter 4 was the last Street Fighter that had execution as an element of skill expression in the game. In this day and age, since Street Fighter 5, you could go to youtube.com, type in whatever character you want, and within 10 minutes, learn the optimal conversions and B&Bs for your character and in the entire cast if you really wanted to, and immediately take that to ranked gameplay with rollback netcode online to practice it. Everything I just mentioned in that sentence was unfathomable to a Street Fighter 4 player. YouTube did not exist at the time. You had to practice your links. Plinking wasn't even understood until like later on into the game series. So imagine you're in 2009 trying to do Akuma stand roundhouse loops, trying to link jab, jab, jab with the Vega. You're getting cooked. Okay? So execution. Players had to differentiate themselves. When you looked at Sanford Kelly with his Oni, when you looked at Sako, pick any one of his characters that he mained in that game. When you looked at Cien with his Gen, looked at all the character specialists that exist throughout the eras of Street Fighter 4. They elevated their character to an art form and set themselves apart from the rest of the competition. Not just because they were exceptional at the game plan. That was a huge part of it, of course. Strategy is king at the end of the day. But they put in the work to master their character like it was an instrument. Like they were a composer. It was a work of art when every one of these top-level players competed with their character.
Vortex is a real work of art, Brian. Vortex. I played Akuma. Hey. Trust me, it was real art. When I hit somebody with sweeping neutral 5-frame sweep into Tatsu or empty jump demon flip, real art.
Listen,
wait, Rob, you're the last one to bring up Vortex. Every character in your game does Vortexes me with throw loops. You know, back in my game, we didn't have throw loop or, Vortex hard knockdowns. You got one knockdown and back to neutral.
50% of the time you had throw loops. Let's be real, okay? You're better than Street Fighter 6 right now, but 50% of Street Fighter 5's lifespan.
No, it wasn't 50. It wasn't 50. It was like 25% of the game was throw loop in the beginning, but I'm talking and Street Fighter 5.
That Vortex, listen, yes, a Vortex. I got a break character here. Vortex was bullshit. Okay, it was BS no matter which way you go about it. However, to be fair to those scumbag Akuma players, you still had to do an option select. You still had to understand the engine on a technical level to keep it airtight. Listen, I played Ballrock back then. Yeah, when I got swept by Akuma, my homie PD back in the day we trained, it was GG's. But to be fair, he labbed every wake-up scenario. He understood how to OS every situation. This game rewarded the lab monsters, the lab scientists who went into training mode and grinded out how to perfectly optimize their interactions. They got that touch. They executed the game plan. They got the win from it. And you had to make sure to outplay them in the neutral to avoid that situation. And plus, listen, we're going to talk about later in the game's lifespan. We got delayed wake-up, baby. Listen, we got our Capcom was listening. Capcom paid attention to how BS this was.
Well, we had setups for that, and I will add this too, bro.
That's true.
You want to talk about learning the mechanics? Street Fighter 6 has, for better or worse, the strongest mechanics in Street Fighter history. At least in 4, 5, and 6. This is the strongest game mechanics possible. So when you watch Lachar play, when you watch Blaws and these guys play, the frequency in which you're seeing these perfect parries, for example, like the way that they have to actually master the game engine, I think is far beyond what you had to do in the past. Also, I can't put respect on what the players were doing in Street Fighter 4 as far as game mechanics, because a lot of it was also a knowledge barrier. I know for a fact that I spoke with Justin, obviously one of the homies. Justin Jwong is playing against Daigo. I want to say 2009 Evo Grand Finals, and Daigo is doing option selects. Justin Jwong in the Evo Grand Finals did not know that these option selects existed.
Get outplayed, scrub.
So he thought,
what are you talking about?
He was the better player.
He was the better player.
That's not a that's not a better player.
That's not fair. The Street Fighter 6 defender is going to say that's not fair. It's not fair that you know more about the game than me. That's the game, buddy. That's the game.
The fact that now the scene didn't know and Japan knew. The fact that now it's the even playing field. We all know what's up, and you just got to beat that guy.
Well, back then, exactly, it was an uneven playing field. Back then, when I wanted to learn any of my combos, when I wanted to do headbutt to ultra with Balrog in 2009, Christmas 2009, I got my copy of Street Fighter 4. I was like, how do the pros do jab, short, headbutt into ultra? Every time I do that, they fall out. I played the game for months without being able to do the basic combo because the game doesn't hold your hand. There's no resources available. You have to figure it out trial by fire. Daigo shows up to Evo Grand Finals and knows option selects. Justin Jwong does not. Who wins this Evo? The better player with more game knowledge. The better player with more game knowledge. I don't care about your theoretical. If only I knew what they knew. You don't. When you plugged your controller in and the set started, you didn't know. Therefore, you were worse at the game. Facts. And in this era, getting that game knowledge was part of the challenge. You had to go to offline locals. You had to boot up shoryuken.com. You had to go to eventhubs.com. You had to go to your Facebook local group and deal with the dregs of society on those pages to find the random garage to go meet up to practice and learn.
Lil Blaw's got to deal with the fact that we have CFN and people can just go look at his actual replays and see his inputs on everything he's doing on his wake up. He can't hide anything. Y'all didn't even have CFN at that time or nothing to look at your replays and see the inputs. All the information is out there.
How do I learn how to play the
CFN?
game?
What do we have CFN on Street Fighter 5? What do you say?
I said 4. Street Fighter 5, yeah. 6 is harder for different reasons.
Even going back to Brian's argument, like, you had all these combos, all this stuff. You're acting like Street Fighter 4 also didn't have your fair share of shithead characters. Like, for 5, there wasn't that many shithead characters, but you had Abel, you had Forte. I was a Street Fighter 4 Poison player.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we all had our own fair share of shithead stuff, shitheadery. So it's kind of, you're using Daigo as the pedestal, but let's not act like lower than Daigo. There wasn't, stuff you could get away with, or other dumb shit.
I'm not saying Street Fighter 4 was pure footsies and fundamentals. If anything, that makes the game easier. Welcome to Street Fighter 5, baby. Everything's fair and honest. Dude, we had fucking Seth. We had Seth. We had El Fuerte. Do you want me to get Pepeday on your ass right now? Are you ready for this shit? You ready for that wake up quesadilla bomb? Whatever the fuck is going on? I don't even know what's happening when I watch this man play. You're not ready for this. This is what the players had to deal with in this era at that level. You were lucky if you've even fought a decent El Fuerte in your life up till that point. If you did not live in New York or California or in Utah for Peru to beat your ass, Pepeday is gonna show up and rock your world, and you're not even gonna know what happened because there was no CFN. That means it was easier for who? For who?
For Pepeday.
Not for everyone else.
Okay. And Brian, you know what? Also, execution. This is the thing. That's another feather in Street Fighter 6's cap, actually. As far as this conversation of what's harder to compete in, we're asking what's harder to compete in, not what's harder to play. The fact that the execution barrier is lower means that everybody I go against, when I go enter a pool in Street Fighter 6, anybody enters a pool in Street Fighter 6 for Evo, whatever the hell, every dude you go against can take 50% of your life bar off of one hit. You know what that requires? Perfection. Imagine a game, I heard Marvel 3 is something like that. What my point is, you make a mistake, you miss a jump in, one thing I do that I love since I've gotten into like training Street Fighter 6 over the last couple weeks, right? Is I actually have a hot take and think that Street Fighter 6 versus 5, I'm about to shit on some Street Fighter 5. I don't even know I competed in that.
Okay.
I actually believe, dead ass serious, the average person has better neutral now in Street Fighter 6 than they had in Street Fighter 5. The average person, you play online and stuff.
Yeah, fucking Christ, they got drive rush. That's why.
That's not why. I'm saying because when I'm playing people, what I've noticed is they're more conscious of trying not to whiff buttons and stuff because the game forces them to be, because you get whiff punish into a punish counter. So now it's no longer a choice. Before I whiff punish you with Karen, stand, medium punch, something like that, and it's like, oh, okay, and you keep doing dumbass shit. In this game, I whiff punish you into 50, 60% which teaches you, oh, I gotta be perfect. People's anti-air DPs are better in this game because the damage is so high. They've gotten jumped in on, and they just die. You're in the corner and you just die. You gotta guess what drive impact. People's neutral in 6 is better than their neutral in Street Fighter 5. Even though
Street Fighter 4 was the last era of new. I don't give a fuck what you two are talking about. Street Fighter 4. I want you to watch right now Alex Valle versus Daigo season beatings right now, and tell me the last fucking time you've seen a Ryu mirror match play out like that. Listen, all props to Blas Crime. Yeah. I've seen the Ryus of this era. Beautiful. I'm a fan. Have you seen how that match played out? Have you seen the stand light kick to shift the hurt box to bait the low forward into the crouching heavy kick sweep with punish? That 1-2 piece combo right there speaks more to the skill required in Street Fighter 4 than anything else you can bring up. Any 70% optimized combo with no execution, buffers into drive rush, all these mechanics carrying you. I'm sorry, it's Street Fighter 4 all the way. That's it.
You guys keep bringing up execution, acting like 5 didn't have one of the biggest gatekeeps in execution. Hit confirming. I know Brian could have hit confirm. Rob, Rob also could. Rob had good hit confirm. But, hit confirming was a huge part of Street Fighter 5. Oh, I missed a Karen low forward in the Tanko. Well, there goes 40% of my life, and I'm close to stun. Like, a lot of that stuff mattered. It gate kept so many people. There were a lot of people in our scene, our high-level players, that would miss a hit confirm or were scared to even go into the special move because they're like, oh, I might lose 40% of my life. Nowadays, in Street Fighter 6, you get 40% for sneezing on people. In Street Fighter 4, nobody was even doing it. You were just standing in neutral half the time, just like walking back and forth because nobody wanted to do combos because they were too hard.
Because our low forwards were honest. You could actually play neutral. In Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6, you stand up once and you explode. It's GG. You should have been holding down back the whole time. And to the easiest combo anyone's ever done.
My version of low forward at least took a little bit more skill than Rob's version of low forward.
Bro, okay, for one, y'all talking about these things, but how about resource management? Y'all want to talk about execution, resource management. Street Fighter 6 is the game that requires the best and most difficult resource management out of all 3 of the titles that we're talking about. At any given moment, even when you do land a hit, you have to decide, is it worth it to spin this right here? Which combo should I do? Which route should I go with? It's not just a can't situation. The fact that you start out with all of your resources and you got to figure, I'm down at this spot. Now I can only parry against drive impact. Also, that's resource management. So one, I think we all agree, resource management is the hardest.
Before you get to your next point, I have one counterpoint. Noahtheprodigy. Your argument's over, dude. It doesn't fucking matter. Spend your drive gauge, go into burnout, and it doesn't matter. And Street Fighter 4, and I'll give a bone to Street Fighter 5. Super meter does not regenerate at the beginning of every round. You care if you spent that EX bar or not. Okay, do I use the FADC right now? Do I bank this uppercut FADC on this, or do I hold this, take it to the graves, take it to the next round? You have to consider whether you burn this or not. Now, Ultra. Yeah, you gotta just spend your ultra.
Brian, with Noahtheprodigy, hold up, my bad. With Noahtheprodigy, my thing is, for all you know, Noah would be better if he had better resource management, and I think he would. Noah has some of the greatest.
So are you trying to say that even though Noah is not properly using resource management, he's already playing the game at that high of a level? You say that Noah is one of the best players in the world. And I agree with that actually in Street Fighter 6. So what are you trying to say, Rob?
What I'm saying about that is that when I speak to elite players, even people who don't like him, they say he has some of the greatest reactions in Street Fighter history. Like his actual natural ability. Natural ability is some of the greatest of all time as far as raw reactions. So yes, he has such a crazy level, like perfection and anti-airs and reactions and reacting to the drive impact with his super and all this stuff that is like the top of what a human can damn near do, it seems like. So yes, he is able to, this 1 in a million case, compensate for the fact that he's burning out. But I argued if he did resource manage well, then he would definitely be even better. And you can't just bring up one player. But yes, he would be even better. The best reactions ever, but then good resource management, he would get better placements. He hasn't won a Grand Slam. He hasn't been in Grand Finals of a Grand Slam.
I think Street Fighter 6 actually has the worst resource management of all the 4 games. You just get the meter back for free. There's nothing. There's no resource man. At least in Street Fighter 5, if I wanted to use my bullshit EX move, EX Zonk, EX Thunderclap, whatever, I'm giving up my meter. Oh, now I don't have meter for a wake up DP or something. That's resource management. I didn't have super meter. I don't have super. I can't do my anti-fireball move because I don't have meter now. Like, that's actual resource management. Getting 6 bars at the start is, bro, you're just going to get it back anyway. That doesn't matter.
You talking about the start, but what about burnout? And real quick, as far as you're
going to win.
So wait, are you going to argue burnout is the harder mode to play in Street Fighter 6?
Yes, it is.
Welcome to Street Fighter 4. That's Street Fighter 4 right there. If you want the harder version of Street Fighter 6, just play Street Fighter 4 from the start.
Right? Okay. In Street Fighter 4, right? First and foremost, a player like myself, I don't know what you would have did because you played bullshit ass Laura. But somebody like me in Street Fighter 4, if I was competing in that game, I would have had an even easier time than I had in 5 or that I'll have in 6. Because the damage was so low and the defense was so varied. There were so many options you had with button text and all this stuff like that, which I think is cool, right? But with having all those options, if I'm better than someone, I'm just better than them. Do you know how much easier it would have been? You know how many times that you, Brian, you, iDom, me, Rob TV, has lost to somebody in a bracket in Street Fighter 5, or that y'all probably in Street Fighter 6. We're in 4, we saying it's harder to compete.
You're making the argument for me. Please go ahead. You're making the argument for me.
We're not saying what's the better game. We're saying what's the hardest to compete.
Yeah, you're making the argument for me. Go ahead.
In Street Fighter 4, the fact that I'm not worried about no motherfucking Johnny Donuts. In 6, I'm worried about that motherfucker.
Thank you. So what you're saying is, in Street Fighter 4, the better player wins more often. There are a larger number of players who are worse at the game. As you climb to the top of the mountain, you reach the summit, there are fewer and fewer players. Therefore, the number of upsets that are occurring, it doesn't matter in that sense. You're not concerned about people being upset at the top. What you're concerned about is having those people be consistently beating the ones beneath you. If there's all these upsets occurring in the other title, that means that it's easier to get wins. There's more people getting wins they don't deserve. Therefore, it's easier to compete.
What's the hardest to compete, as in which one is the hardest to? I'm assuming that competing, we trying to have somebody win tournaments and stuff like men and winning back to back Grand Slam. Hold on. I like Xiao Hai winning EWC back to back, shit like that.
To compete,
if anybody on this call is gonna tell me that it's not harder for a minute to win Evo Japan and Evo Vegas back to back in Street Fighter 6 than it would have been for anybody to do it in Street Fighter 4 or 5, you sound crazy. So it depends on what we're talking about here. I'm saying because the game is so volatile, it's that much harder because it's a slight at the game to some degree. It's damn near a criticism of the game to some level. But it also makes it harder to win.
No, it makes Mena a fucking anomaly, is what it is. All props to Mena. He's an alien.
No, it doesn't.
That's what it makes him.
Angry Bird
he's an anomaly.
Angry Bird, the same person that lost to young Matt Teen at East Coast Throwdown? Crazy.
Angry Bird got top 8 at Evo.
Yes.
Angry Bird got top 8 at Evo 3 years in a row. Angry Bird got top 8 at EWC and Evo 3 years in a row, both of them.
Yes, Rob. There's other tournaments besides EWC and Evo. You people are like, oh, this doesn't exist or that tournament doesn't exist. This tournament's in the middle. We're not just going from Evo to EWC, back to Evo to Evo again. There's tournaments in the middle.
Brother, in those tournaments in the middle, you are just going to remember the times when the upset happened and you're going to say young Matt Team. You literally are going to, you're not going to remember the thousand young Matt Team situations where Angry Bird won.
Absolutely. Back in my day, back in the Street Fighter 4 era, we used to play for a pocket lint, a handful of nickels, and some peanuts, all right? And we did it out of passion for the game. And those were the most hardened god gamers that we've ever seen in the FGC. They were giving it their all for absolutely nothing. Now, Rob, all you remember is the EWCs and Evo because you guys have the glory. You know, you got the big prize pools, you got the Evos, you got the numbers, but we literally had to go to strangers' garages to figure out where the tournaments were in order to compete. So to even get your foot in the door, you had to risk your life and limb in strangers' homes and weird back alley tournaments to even get the chance to compete. And those mattered. Those tournaments were that mattered. You're saying all these tournaments in between don't matter. The same people that would win every single one of these locals would go on to win eventually the regionals and eventually the majors. It was required for you to do those stepping stones because there wasn't this online infrastructure to carry you in between as well. You had to go here. You absolutely had to get off your ass and go to these tournaments, and they mattered. That was the proving grounds. You can't just be comfortable grinding on your lonesome.
Brian F and Ivan Domination. I just want to ask you guys something real quick. Yes or no, Street Fighter 6 by a long shot. Let's not talk about the gameplay. By a long shot, do you believe that Street Fighter 6 has the most people ever that are not just good, because we can argue about why they're good, that are putting in exorbitant amounts of their time in their life into the game? Right now, in this era right now, do we have the most people by a long shot that are putting in X amount of hours, dead ass serious training with the intention of trying to become good and compete in the game, and it's not even close? Let's compare Street Fighter 4.
They can try as much as they want. The skill separation.
So in Street Fighter 4 and 6, do you think it's even close? Let's say the metric was players that spend at least 6 hours on average, 6 hours a day in a 7-day week throughout the year.
Rob,
do you think in Street Fighter 4 there was nearly as many people even playing that much?
Please, Adam, let him know. Let him know what's up.
I think there are obviously more players in 6, but there's a lot more players who actually had were getting to that level. Just to not say in 6, there's probably a lot of players, but also a lot of those players are probably gold or platinum. You have more players.
No. I'm saying people. Do you think there are more people that are on a multi-hour training regimen? If you look at the time they're putting in, trying to compete.
At EVO 2023, there were 7,000 competitors in that tournament. That's an amazing achievement. I got to round 3 pools in that tournament, nearly round 4.
Yeah.
If it was EVO Street Fighter 4, if I'm getting to round 3 pools, I'm fighting Momochi. I'm fighting PR Balrog. I'm fighting Kazunoko. I am fighting to make that top 16 qualifier match. I am fighting the best in the world. There can be 1 million people competing. Does it mean they're all near that top level? Does it mean it's actually harder to beat them? Does it mean that sometimes? Does it mean that sometimes there's more people? Absolutely. But does that mean that's raising the level of the competition?
I'm not asking if there's more people. I said, I don't care how many people it is. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about the hours.
Yeah.
Are there more people who are by far? Okay, let's put it in a more simple way.
But those are empty hours
right now.
Yeah, they could be empty hours, Rob.
Full-time Street Fighter players. Are there more people who consciously want to become full-time Street Fighter players right now than any other time in history by a long shot?
Yes, because people had to be kind of insane to be full-time Street Fighter players back in the Street Fighter 4 days.
So right now,
he kind of had to be a little delusional. He kind of had to be a little crazy.
But
that means our players. That means our top players were nuts. Listen, at NLBC, if certain people didn't win that tournament, they were not going to eat that night, Rob. You do not know how it is to compete in a weekly where people were fighting for their meal ticket. Okay. All of these people are putting in hundreds of hours. Sure, but they're doing it after work. They're doing it in between their homework for school. They're playing from the comfort of their own home. It's different. It's different. People were scrappy in the Street Fighter 4 era. Okay, they were fighting. This was it. This was their way out. This was the only way forward. They gave it their all, and that's what you immediately had to fight in Street Fighter 4. Immediately.
Also, during the Street Fighter 5 times, I want to throw this out there. There are way more players getting sponsored. Obviously, people are getting sponsored for EWC, but we had legitimate sponsors. There are players flying around all over the world because people were actually getting picked up for their consistent results, Rob, right? Consistent results, maybe? Yeah, but even then, I remember I would get
you talking about that consistent
in Street Fighter 5. In Street Fighter 5, there were players getting constant results and getting picked up by a high-profile organization, not the cheap EWC ticket. And then as soon as you don't win because game's random, let me pull out my ticket. But there were amazing players getting sponsored.
He's got a point.
Y'all are and I played them, but I wasn't big yet when y'all messed up everything. Because that's when the bubble bursted. That was the problem.
That was COVID.
Sponsor for all kind of goddamn money to do nothing but just go to the tournament, win or lose, and go home, making no content, no ROI.
Getting top 8 is doing nothing. When I was going to tournaments at 5, I knew I was going to get top 8. There wasn't some Joe Schmo or somebody going to beat me randomly in pool.
Brother, if those sponsors had more common sense, they would have got more out of signing El Chicote in Street Fighter V than signing 99% of the players that they signed during that 2017-2018 era, because at least he had a popping stream that's consistent. You can't bring up the sponsorship thing when it was literally, I remember them paying people $10,000, $7,000 a month to not even have a stream or a YouTube video, and spending thousands on a plane ticket and a flight in a hotel just to play in a tournament and go home.
Y'all are arguing about who's the brokest millionaire right now. I just need you to remember that none of this, the complaining about not taking advantage of the resource, none of this would have existed without Street Fighter 4.
That's a different conversation.
The come up that Street Fighter 4 had from its humble beginnings, year after year growing as EVO progressed, peaking in its final EVO appearance in 2015. Capcom Cup, the very first Capcom Cup, you know how much Saka won for that Capcom Cup 2013? He won $6,000 for Capcom Cup 2013. He was traveling the world, beating ass with robotic execution for $6,000. $6,000. And you know what?
Hey, you think he was as nervous as Kakaroo playing for $1 million? 6,000, and you think that it was as hard for him to play that grand final?
I think everyone. I agree that everyone is far more nervous playing Street Fighter 6 because they're going to lose to Johnny Donuts at any moment. I agree.
Because you're playing because you're playing a $900,000 money match, maybe.
Or because the game's just random. I mean, maybe it's that because there's no skill separation.
Kakaroo also made me less nervous because, as far as I'm concerned, I won the last real Capcom Cup. Now everyone's getting flown out from these other regions. I had to play the 32 best players in the world and qualify from a leaderboard. Now, you're the best player in Bumble nowhere. Oh, who cares? Well, now you're in Capcom.
Dangerous game, iDom.
I mean, that's a fair point, but at the same time, somebody's playing for $1 million, brother. And I will also argue, even at your Capcom Cup versus the Capcom Cups now, the way they change it with Warrior and stuff. And by the time we get to top 16, I dare you to show me a Capcom Cup bracket with World Warrior, since World Warrior been there, that is not just as hard as every other Capcom Cup before.
But you're saying top 16. My
half the bracket,
sure. Was top 32. As soon as I got the top 32,
I'm just saying. But I'm not saying it was not great underneath that, though. Don't get me twisted. But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, the best players still won.
Sounds like a concession. Sounds like a concession, Rob. Sounds like a concession. So Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5, we got the Capcom Cups. Got you. I mean, Street Fighter 4 started this whole thing, right? They had to figure this thing out. It was the passion of the players.
Street Fighter 4 has the Capcom Cups? Are you crazy?
Yeah. What are you talking about? You just admitted it right there.
No, I did not. You said $6,000 for grand finals. Okay, if the financial, we're grown men.
No, that was for the first one. That was for the first one. It was 2015 was the big bucks. They founded this thing, is what I'm trying to say. Between 2013 and 2015, the prize pools exploded and we got the modern Capcom Cup out of Street Fighter 4. Because these people who've been playing for peanuts for years, carrying the scene when no one could surpass them because there's actual skill separation in the way the game was structured. Yeah, they carried the scene.
You're telling me that as a grown-ass man, you think that somebody playing look at the results. Right now in Street Fighter 6, don't we literally see different results depending on when most of the money on the line? Don't men lose all the goddamn time or just only do decent until it's a big-ass situation? Don't we see Kakaroo step up all the time? Don't we see Angry Bird step up all the time? Don't we see Xiaohua show up back to back?
I know you love to spin that as being because the money's the only thing that matters, but once again, me and iDom can both just say that just means the game's random. I know that's how
the game's random.
What's that?
iDom, hold on. Let me isolate you.
Bro, there's tournaments in the middle.
Street Fighter 6. You were saying, and in the tournaments in the middle, LaShar won back to back, nigga.
Yeah, okay, LaShar, I'll give you. But at the same time, there's still other tournaments.
Okay, LaShar won back to back. Karma Breaker and CEO.
Yeah, LaShar.
Kudo won Topanga and Blink Respawn. What are we talking about? The same people win back to back in Street Fighter 6. There is no random. It's not random. It's just not. It's just not random. I'm sorry. Xiaohai won back to back. EWC. Mena is winning all of these Grand Slam tournaments over the course of years. Street Fighter 6 is extremely consistent. Not even a little bit. It's actually extremely consistent. There is no argument outside of Street Fighter 6 being extremely consistent.
The strongest upsets have definitely occurred outside of the Street Fighter 4 era. Facts. That's a fact.
I definitely think 6
That's
holds the king for it.
That's a fact.
But
as soon as they reduce the execution barrier, I'm sorry, people might not like it. People might
correlation
say
does not imply causation.
Say
brother.
whatever you want. As soon as the execution barrier was broken with the introduction of an input buffer to make all links 5 frames or easier for everyone involved, it dramatically increased the inconsistency and variability in short-term sets due to the high punishing consequences of every hit being able to convert to high max damage combos, regardless of how much execution was required to do that. Prior to Street Fighter V, when you landed a hit, there was another layer of skill expression required where you had to decide in that moment, do I go for an optimal conversion which requires higher execution? Do I keep it simple and opt for a more consistent route? The number of the web of options was infinitely more per touch in that game, and lower skilled players would drop their combos all the time, leading to more experience, higher consistency, and higher execution players to win consistently over those players. Therefore, it was harder to compete because you had to put in infinitely more work to break into that tier. That's just how it is.
Brian, the main content that I was watching in Street Fighter 4, and there was other stuff, but the main thing for a lot of us, which is when I got into the scene, it was Excellent Adventures. Love that show. The greatest show, FGC show ever, right? That said, I was not learning how to be nice from Mike Ross's janky ass setups that he was doing with his Honda. Okay. So I was watching that show and it was pure entertainment. It was pure fun. There's playing rank, you know, it was all that. Right now, right? If I have, or even starting at 5, I would even say, but even more now. But yes, people are actually watching a Brian F video where Brian F breaks down how to play against Sagat. And it's like, this is what you do as a Sagat player to master him. And this is how you defeat Sagat. And you know what? There's even channels that have like 1,000 subscribers who actually have great character matchup breakdowns. Like that are guys that aren't even popular like that or whatever, right? I would even say, I know he's not that small. We got people like Chris F, right? We got so many different streamers now, so many YouTubers that have content that's teaching you how to play the game and understand the game at a high level. We got Range with all of his great analytical breakdowns where he's breaking down these things you wouldn't normally be able to know. So it could be your first time getting into Street Fighter, but you got a Range video to watch. It could be your first time getting a Street Fighter, but you got this high fight breakdown. It could be your first time getting a Street Fighter, and now we got the fucking Japanese FGC dropping videos every fucking day. Fucking Gachi-kun just dropped something that helped me with, I'm godlike at footsies. It helped me as a former pro player get better at whiff punishing, something that Gachi-kun dropped. These videos did not exist in the Street Fighter 4 era. So maybe it's not just the execution that changed. Maybe it's the information and the availability of it.
Well, back in the Street Fighter 4 days in 2009, you had to deal with the Japanese players who've been playing the game for a whole year coming over and taking your money. So, yeah, part of the game is it's life's not fair, man. Sometimes you have a difference in information, and that shit just beats your ass. So, what am I gonna do? You should have been born in Japan. I'm sorry, you fucked up. Okay, and that's a skill issue. All right. And that's so.
You know what? You know what we didn't even bring up yet, though, y'all. Adizi, as somebody, we all three of us competed in Street Fighter 5. That was our main. Well, I don't know if you compete now, but in Street Fighter 5 is when we all competed, and I can say from experience, Street Fighter 6 is one of the reasons it's the hardest too, is because we got the most kids playing, bro. Street Fighter 5 did not have even close to this amount of young kids that are 13, 14,
wait. Rob, that doesn't help your
That's
case.
true.
You're saying this game's just made for kids, and like any kids can gotta beat anyone. So like
Cue
that's not good at
versus
all.
Daigo, CEO 2025.
That's not helping. That's not helping your case.
I saw that little Italian kid beat the goat's ass. That was a beatdown.
Don't have any responsibilities. They don't do anything but wake up and train Street Fighter. Blaws ain't got shit to do. Crymate ain't got shit to do.
And what does Daigo have to do? Daigo hasn't had shit to do besides play Street Fighter for 30 years. That's literally all he's had to do.
Grown ass man, bro. And Daigo like
That's all he's had to do for 30 plus years. All he's done is wake up and play Street Fighter.
Man, these guys probably going through midlife crisis and whatnot, bro. These kids don't have any. Blaws isn't. Look, this is my thing with these kids. Blaws is in grand finals in a $900,000 money match, and he's smiling and laughing. He lost that grand finals to Kakaru, and I don't think his emotion changed at all. Because he's so young.
It did.
He can't comprehend how much money was on the line.
He did. He hit the aw shucks.
Bro, yeah.
When he lost $900,000, he went, "Oh shucks, good game."
Brother, do you know how hard it is to beat him in comparison to a grown man who's as nervous as you? That's
well, how about this? I brought up NuckleDu in the beginning, which it's a pretty interesting thing, right? I thought that was an interesting stat. How in 2015 he wins Combo Breaker with 200 of the best people in America, and then in 2025 he wins TNS on a random Wednesday, a randandom weekly, also featuring the best players in America. You know, Punk was in that tournament, right? It is different that in this era we have those majors every freaking week online, which is nuts, but. Back then, I remember going to tournaments when I was in college for Street Fighter 4 in Florida. And who did we have? We had CJ Truth and NuckleDu, top two in every tournament in Florida, 14 and 15 years old. Just like Crime Blaws back then. They would show up as kids with their parents in tow. And I remember my very first tournament, a random kid sat down next to me. I was first time out of my own city, scoping out the competition. He beat my ass with Cammy, Sagat, Akuma, C Viper, and then everyone was coming in like, "Oh, you're gonna take our money? You're here to beat us again?" And it turns out that kid was NuckleDu, and he was a child sitting down to beat my ass. So I don't know. I think only Street Fighter 5 was missing out on the kid Prodigies. I don't know. So maybe Street Fighter 5 was the easiest.
We had one of our most consistent. Yeah, we had Ending Walker. Punk was really young when he started off in Street Fighter 5. We definitely had our child Prodigy, but even then, as they got older and they got more consistent, one of Punk's best years was 2019, which, like I said, was, I don't know exactly how old he was that year, but there's something, you're aging and getting better with age, that you can show off your consistency. So there's also that game actually kind of rewards good gameplay and staying consistent and getting better as you're getting older. Even when I started off in Street Fighter 5, I wasn't as good, but as I got older, aging like wine, and got better and better the longer the game's been out.
Okay, how about this one? In Street Fighter 4, we had to deal with Vanilla Sagat. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
We had to deal with Vanilla Sagat.
Yeah, we had much worse shit in 5. Like, we had Abigail, we had Luke. Yeah, what are we talking about?
Yeah, no, I mean, the competitors had to deal with it. But the problem is, when Abigail was broken in Street Fighter 5, what did everyone do? They bitched and complained until Daddy Capcom stepped in to nerf the problem for them. In Street Fighter 4, you know what everybody did? They picked a top tier. Everybody picked up Vanilla Sagat, or they picked Akuma. They picked the most broken shit because it was the pre-patch era. You had to pay a full $60 for that new update that came out in 2 or 3 years. You didn't know what was going to be on there. You had to adapt or die. In the modern era, starting with Street Fighter 5 yearly balance patches, the patch culture came into play where the meta was no longer adapt to the gameplay and pick what you had to do to win. It was who can craft the most optimal downplay on Twitter. Facts that did not exist in the Street Fighter 4 era, and Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6, that is the way to go.
Patch culture made it harder to compete because I know when I was competing, when a patch came out, it was annoying as hell because now I need to go and learn this new character matchup that came out, and it changes some of the character matchups so much. Let alone, I think we've all experienced our character getting nerfed to the goddamn ground, and all of a sudden you got to go learn new characters. I would much prefer as a competitor for the game to just stay the same all the time, and then I can just, you know what I mean? I don't got to worry about getting patched out. The season's already going, but now my character's nerfed, and I got to figure out a new strategy or figure out a whole new character during.
But why did you get nerfed? Why did you get nerfed? Because everyone was complaining. That's the strategy. You're a victim. You're a victim of this era. You're a victim.
But it made it harder to win.
Those scrubs would have been done for back in the Street Fighter 4
era. Why don't Rashid ever get nerfed in? Why Rashid ever get nerfed in? Because we be complaining.
No one crafted. Listen, there was no phenom. It was just like you gotta like. We weren't clever enough with that. Like somehow, some way, we didn't figure out a way to get enough propaganda to get Rashid nerfed. But I'm just saying that's how it is. The scrubs complain and get nerfed.
Your errors actually might be worse because you could just place the god and be fine. At least in our era, we gotta, wake up every morning and be like, oh shit, is Karen gonna get nerfed? Is Mai gonna get nerfed? Oh my god, what's gonna happen? Like with you, it's just, oh, I'm gonna pick Sagat. Oh, even if I don't buy super, I got Sagat. I'm just chilling. Like, what do we even say?
Well, bro, you didn't even have to make this right now in 6, brother. This is the thing. You know what makes this one of the things that makes this the hardest game to compete in? Bro, you gotta make decisions, brother. You got to make decisions back to back to back to back to back. The mental stamina required to play this game. I can do my first to deaths and everything in Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 4, and I did them. My first to hundreds, all the stuff like that. In Street Fighter 6, I can play for a long time, but at some point, I'm not going to be as productive, and I'm not getting as much out of it. And that point is much sooner in this game because it's so mentally taxing. I'm lifting such a heavier weight because of the way that the game is built and the game mechanics. So the stamina required for a player to go and win an Evo bracket in Street Fighter 6 or what is much harder because of the amount of players. So that you got to play more matches. And Street Fighter 6 is that stressful. So no other Street Fighter game in history required this much stamina to compete at the highest level.
But why is it stressful? Why is it stressful? Because you can't rely on your skill to outplay Joe Schmo.
No, you just got to be, you know what it is? You rely on your skill, but the thing is, you have to be that much more skilled than
that means,
to be in the past.
If you're Joe Schmo, if you are Joe Schmo in Street Fighter 4 or Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 6, in which era will you see more success?
None of them.
You will see more success in Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6. Yeah, that is a fact. That is a fact.
Rob, your measurement of success is winning a tournament. Some other people's measurement of success might just be beating Daigo randomly in bracket. And we've seen that happen a lot. Daigo just losing to Joe Schmo.
Why are we talking about that?
We've all done it.
Why is that relevant?
What do you mean? Why is that relevant?
Somebody who got fucking 500th place, but they beat Daigo.
That's an accomplishment to some people. A lot of people.
And what other field of competition would you have a potential GOAT #1 player lose to a Joe Schmo like that out of nowhere? Does that not speak volumes to the issues? Huh? Does that not? And if it doesn't happen in a different game in a different era, doesn't that not reflect that potentially that era is more difficult to compete in if you can't break into that echelon, if you can't break into and cause those upsets?
I just want to also say, I think the last tournament, Daigo lost in 5. He lost to Tokido and Fudo. And I want to say the last tournament he probably played before, he lost to Kazunoko twice, right? Because that was
Capcom Cup. I think it might have been Kazunoko twice, yeah.
Yeah. I would hate to bring up the last 2 people Daigo lost to in 6, but that might not be.
Who are they? Let me tell me.
I don't know. He's lost to so many people. But
it was Broski and Jack, which are honestly not that bad.
That's not that bad. That's not that bad.
Did you just see what Daigo versus Punk? Are you kidding me?
Why was that a big deal, Rob? Why was Daigo versus Punk a big deal?
Because Daigo's strategy was so unique, and because Punk usually whooped Daigo.
Because Daigo's been losing a lot. That's why it's a big deal.
Daigo said, I was hosting, I was Battle King at Red Bull Kumite France, and Daigo lost 5-0 to Noahtheprodigy. And you know what Daigo said in the interview? Man, I might actually start practicing.
Wait. No. It's funny you bring that up because I remember because I was watching this tournament. Daigo said, I lost to Noah. I'm going to start practicing. He went to Gobble right after and lost to Scrot, Vermilion, and Free Stuff, Jamie.
Okay.
What happened?
Bro, the fact that he said he has not been, you think he just gonna immediately overnight because he said he got to start practicing? The next day he's supposed to be fucking godlike. If he said he had practiced,
next day it was a whole couple of weeks. It was like 3 or 4 weeks later.
Brother, come on, dog. Y'all crazy as hell. Y'all really talking about somebody people getting a random win? Like, put it like this.
Matters.
Y'all exaggerate. In Street Fighter 6,
a lot.
That matters.
Y'all exaggerate about how this whole randomness concept. The random conversation for Street Fighter 6 is dead because you guys cannot give me a reason as to why Mina has 60,000 Grand Slams. You cannot give me a reason as to why, with all the best players on planet Earth present, Xiao Hai wins 2 years in a row. You cannot give me a reason as to why Angry Bird is in top 8 of fucking Evo 3 years in a row and is in top 8 of fucking EWC/Gamers 8 3 years in a row.
You don't think this stuff happened in Street Fighter 4, but more consistently? What you're talking about is exceptional because we were seeing the opposite for so long, and now that patterns are emerging, finally, let's grasp to any source of consistency to prove that
Street Fighter 6 just
not
came
random.
out. Win,
finally,
this game is 3 years old. What? This game is 3 years old.
So we can't say that. You said finally.
2009 Evo, 2010 Evo. Every fucking Topanga League, put them all together. Die Goat. There's a reason. People might have forgotten because of what Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6 did to the legends of our scene. But there was a reason
they got older.
Why Daigo is considered the GOAT. Go back and look at his results from this era. We did not have to wait until 3 years into the game to finally have Mena RD be the savior of Street Fighter 6, okay?
When Michael Jordan was on the Wizards, that means the NBA just was bad because Michael Jordan was on the Wizards and all of a sudden he couldn't dunk from the free throw line. So the basketball was bad all of a sudden. Motherfucker 50 years old.
Yeah.
Y'all sound crazy to me. Right now, to be honest, brother, my thing is when I'm gonna add this too. Even I'm adding some anecdotal evidence. So now I'm like about maybe a little over a week and a half, right? And me training in Street Fighter 6, right? Yeah, now I remember like a year or over a year ago, I played for a couple weeks with Akuma. So now this is my first time back since then. So I have virtually no Street Fighter 6 experience. I'm playing Ryu, who's the same character. My fundamental ability alone is putting me in a certain echelon already without even, I don't have the perfect parry timings down. I don't have this, that, and third. Neutral alone is, in my former pro experience in 5, is applying to this game just the same way. In no universe does somebody who's just picking up the game and don't have my fundamentals perform the way that I'm already performing in a week and a half of me playing the damn game, bro. That is proof that Street Fighter 6, bro, the fact that if I whiff punish a motherfucker and I take 60% of his damn life, that Nooch still is king in the end of the day.
Rob, that's just fighting games. If you do that, Rob, I promise you, if you turn on any fighting, Rob, you could turn on City of Wolves and you'll probably be better than 95, 99% of the player base. That's just fighting games. That's just fighting games. That doesn't help your point.
So y'all exaggerate about how much fundamentals don't matter now and somebody can just randomly. That's not true. If I can turn on any modern fighting game and my skill, as my fundamental skill, your fundamental skill is going to apply. Like fighting games, this is the point, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody watching this, please, for y'all who love Street Fighter 6, I want you to make sure you use this exact argument for when people are saying some dumb ass shit about Street Fighter 6. Okay, fighting games come down to mental stat. That is why somebody like Sonic Fox is able to win in 1,000 different games. That's why Justin Wong can win in 1,000 different games. That's why if Punk wanted to become the best in other fighting games, he will also be the best or one of the best in other fighting games as well. It's because of what iDom just said. Fundamentals remain the same throughout all fighting games with some little small details being different. At the end of the day, eventually, it comes down to me reading my opponent. How many times have everybody on this, y'all done watch us all make content, y'all watch us all stream. How many times have you seen us say, oh, he's about to, and he does exactly what we said he was about to fucking do, and we punish him for it. Nigga, that's fighting games. So it don't matter. The skill is that I can know he's about to do that, and I didn't study enough to punish that thing. Street Fighter 6 allows you to do that, and it actually allows you to punish them even harder than you could have done, especially in Street Fighter 4.
I'm going to be watching every stream from here on out, Rob, and I'm going to be waiting for that one dude who does DI every fucking time and you eat shit every time. I'm going to be waiting for that reaction. I better not hear a word out of you, Rob. I better hear you go, wow, he did random DI on my wake up in the corner and I died. Well played. Into 70% of my life with CA on a comeback. That was such a great read on his part, and I am a failure and I deserve to lose here, and he is clearly that much better than I am. I want to hear those words when this happens to you, because in Street Fighter 4, you were not eating no random DI in the corner. You had to out-newt. You talk about mental stack. Yes, mental stack is a core element of all fighting, but there's different scales to how that applies. What about spacing? What about footsies, right? What happened to the pure fundamentals that used to run this series? Huh? Just like, El Fuerte and Hakan and Abel and Seth and Invincible, Wake Up,
all those
SPD,
characters.
and
my game with the actual real footsies of, walking back and forth. Nobody wanted to, jerking position because nobody wanted to jump because you would just get anti-aired, or checking a dash because nobody wanted to do anything. That was the actual real footsies.
Yeah, true. Actually, no one was doing shit in Street Fighter 5.
Light elbow, bro. I remember your light elbow loop. That was not nooch, brother.
That was nooch. You would just get put in a vortex because characters actually.
We haven't even brought up V Trigger. Wait a minute, Rob. What are we doing? I feel like it's been me and iDom teaming up against you, Rob. What are we doing? We got V Trigger over here. What are we even talking about?
V Trigger?
Wait. You see, this is the problem. Like, I knew you guys were gonna do it, so I have a counterpoint for both of you guys. You guys are complaining about GV Trigger, Laura V Trigger. Where's Karen V Trigger? Where's Ryu V Trigger? With Rob, bro, I hate every drive rush. Every button in the drive rush is every character doing the same thing. Every character doing cross checks, doing the same. At least with my game, it was character specific complaint. Now you guys are just complaining about anything. And that's kind of the thing with Street Fighter 6 has going for it. The game knowledge is kind of less because you just run your flow chart with your character. You just lab your, you lab your flow chart for like a couple of hours, and then you just do your thing.
You're trying to talk characters. You're trying to talk character specific matchups. You're trying to talk character tech. Street Fighter 4 was a complete mini game based on the character matchup you had to play. You had to know the ins and outs of every character. Yeah, we had universal mechanics, we had focus attack, whatnot, but besides that, there was no universal drive rush DI parry. There was no V trigger V skill. It was completely different every single character you played, and the variety in the character matchups was next level. There was, and how many characters in Street Fighter 4? 48? What are we up to in Street Fighter 6?
It's 44 for your game, and it's 45
defense
for
was
mine.
easy as hell in Street Fighter 4, though. Defense was easy.
So is it Vortex or is it easy defense, Rob?
The Vortex was broken, but your regular strike throw defense was easy as hell. You didn't have to make no decision. Right now, if you're gonna wake up parry, you committing. If you want a DP, that shit costs you
wake up parry OS to drive rush into a billion%. What are you talking about? You're committing.
You're committing hard, because if you get thrown, you get punish counter. Everything that you do,
you get counter hit thrown. You get counter hit thrown.
You know what it is? Okay, which game would you rather get knocked down in the least? Street Fighter
5. Wait, it's 5. 4. What the fuck? It's definitely 5.
Get knocked down,
bro. You take a throw and you're back in neutral.
No, you want to get thrown. You want to get knocked down in 5.
Which game would you rather get knocked down in the least? Like, which one is worse to get knocked down in? 4, 5, or 6?
It depends on who I'm fighting. Yeah, if it's
at least with our games, it depends on who we're fighting. Every character is doing the same thing.
Okay, so that means Street Fighter 6 is the worst
not a good
game to
thing,
get knocked down in.
Right? If Johnny Donuts throws me to the corner, I'm gonna lose because
you better be that.
Where's my quarter? Here, let's open a coin flip app real quick. It doesn't matter who I'm fighting.
You better be that much better in nooch. You better check that drive rush. You better whiff punish. You better anti-air. You better not miss it.
That's true. All right, guys. How about this? Any closing arguments we have? I think we've had a good debate here. I'll give my last closing argument for Street Fighter 4. I think Street Fighter 4 was the hardest game to compete in, just because the level of execution required, the dedication required to even break into the scene, and the passion required to dedicate yourself to compete in an era where we didn't have these large esports prize pools or weren't sponsors in the scene. All the players that competed in that era really founded what we are working on today. If you enjoy the EVOs and EWCs of today, you owe it to the scene from this era to make that a reality. So for that reason, I say Street Fighter 4 is the hardest era to compete in. Any closing thoughts, iDom?
For me, it's Street Fighter 5. You know, people would be like Street Fighter 4, but honestly, Street Fighter 5 was the gap, the bridge to the Street Fighter 6, you know, getting all this money and stuff. We weren't playing for peanuts or, you know, $6,000 for Capcom Cup. We got to like the 250,000, and then obviously Rob took it all the way up to the million. But also even being that, you know, games more bare bones. It was harder to get good because there was nothing you could really talk about because there wasn't much to the game anyway. It was so simplistic that it was beauty and simplicity in being good at Street Fighter 5. You could watch somebody play Street Fighter 5 and just be like, he's doing nothing and it's beautiful.
I like that argument. You breaking the fourth wall a bit. I actually think that iDom had a much better argument than Brian by far. Because Street Fighter 5, in the end of the day, it's not Brian's fault. It's just because the truth is more on fucking iDom's side. Street Fighter 5, I do think has the best of both worlds. Where there was a lot more people competing at a serious level in Street Fighter 5 than Street Fighter 4, just numerically. The stakes were higher than Street Fighter 4. And it did have a much higher entry like floor level than Street Fighter 6 has, personally.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay, Rob, I'm gonna do this better for you. You're saying 5 wasn't as hard as 4, but it's not as scrubby as 6, so it was a perfect middle ground. Thank you, Rob.
No. I ain't saying scrubby now. I ain't saying
that's what you said. I'm just
hold on, Rob. We still need your closing Street Fighter. You're giving iDom all this credit here. What is your closing Street Fighter 6 Steelman argument? Why is Street Fighter 6 the hardest game to compete in?
6 is the hardest game to compete in. Like, jokes aside, by far. It's just point blank that it has the most players, the most money on the line. I really cannot stress that enough. Street Fighter in a big money tournament versus a Street Fighter outside a big money tournament is a whole different thing. Everything comes down to pressure. Actually, if you look at somebody like Chris T in Blaws, right? If I ask you guys what you think their skill level is out of 10, I think y'all might put Blaws at like a 9, and you might put Chris T at like a 7 or 8, or no, not even an 8. I don't think you put him one below. You put him so much below. I actually believe that the skill gap between a dual Kevin and a Mina RD, between a Chris T and a Blaws, is this small, if it's there at all. I actually will give a hot take. I always say Mina's the GOAT of Street Fighter, and I believe that. I don't think Mina is better at Street Fighter than dual Kevin. And that's just one person I'm bringing up. Because that is not why somebody is fucking winning. So when you look at results, if we had casual matches, the results will be different. When it matters the most, when there's all this on the line, stuff changes. Street Fighter 6 has the most of that, the most stakes. The average skill ceiling has risen because there are more people. If you have any common sense faith in humanity and people at all, I would imagine if me, Brian, and iDom, and all of y'all watching this right now, if all of us put 3 hours put 1 hour per day into a skill versus putting 8 hours a day into a skill, I think we will all be much better putting 8 hours. And nowadays, there's just way more people putting in 8 hours a day than in the Street Fighter 4 era and even in the Street Fighter 5 era. And yes, some of the stuff that is scrubby about Street Fighter 6, which I agree, drive rush is crazy. I can't even believe that shit even exists. Drive impact and all that is not godlike. No drive impact in the history of Street Fighter 6 has ever been godlike. I don't care. If you ever hit somebody with a drop impact in the corner, you have never one time been good for doing that. I don't care if it's Angry Bird. I don't care if it's Mina RD. I don't care if it's Punk. I don't care who's doing a drop impact. That's not nooch. That's not skill. That's not godlike. However, since that is so scrubby, for you to be able to win consistently, the hardest time to do it is right now in Street Fighter 6. That's my closing argument.
I agree with that. Yeah. So all jokes aside, I do think Street Fighter 6 is the hardest era to compete in. I do think there's different elements, like in terms of the actual game mechanics versus the community around the game, right? I just think overwhelmingly, like, there's so many players and the stakes are so high, like, you just can't. It doesn't matter. Even in Street Fighter 6, I don't think Street Fighter 6 is scrubby. Even if it was 20 times more scrubby, it would still be the hardest era to compete in, just because there's an overwhelmingly large majority of players playing in this era for more stakes with more full-time professional players. It's just the numbers are too great in that sense. If it was kind of equal, I think you would be able to like focus more on the game mechanics and make that argument. Because I would argue that there's some things about Street Fighter 6 that I do think make it harder to have that level of skill separation at all levels, even though we see it at the top level. But yeah, too many players. It's just like it's an insane amount of competition right now. But it's an interesting thought experiment to think like, what if we just swap the games? Like, what if Street Fighter 4 released right now with this level of competition? Like, how would that pan out? You know, that to me is an interesting thought experiment.
Be amazing, bro.
But with Street Fighter 4 still have the bad netcode, like that's kind of the main thing. That's what I think 6 has the best argument for. The 6 is netcode, because I think 6 is probably the hardest, but I think it's because you could practice so much, like play online. Everyone's playing an online tournament. Back in my day, online tournaments were frowned upon and nobody even cared. But now, like, people are taking these online tournaments kind of seriously, and you know, World War and all that stuff.
And that's the other element that the OGs always harp on, which is I was trying to tap into, like the information disparity, right? A lot of the OGs always try to make the argument that like, oh, it was harder to compete because you lacked information, versus information is freely available everywhere, and therefore there's no secrets to hide. Like, what makes something more difficult, right? Like, I don't really know where I stand on that. I lean more towards more information available. It raises the skill ceiling, therefore makes it harder to compete. Like, that's where I lean. But there is something to be said about that. Like, you literally had to work harder in some ways or be lucky. I guess there's an element of luck, right? Like, I was privy to this information.
It's just luck. I can't work hard to learn Pro Tech. Like, there was just no way that I could know about 3-button tech, 4-button tech. I can't grind. I could play for a year and just never know that, even if I'm dead serious. You know what I mean?
You gotta go to your local and ask somebody how they keep teching every throw and hitting light kick. That's really what it was. It's an advantage.
You had to get lucky to have a local. Like, I got lucky that I had a dude who taught me a lot of Street Fighter 4 stuff. I had a dude. I went to a local at my college, and then my guy JC said, "Hey, you're kind of good. Let's play." And then he taught me like everything. You know what I mean? Like, I got lucky, right?
Bro, I think Justin literally told me at EWC that he did not know what crouch teching was. That's what it was. I don't know if y'all know this information, but me and Justin did a video together. He ain't posted yet, but I think before we even shot, or maybe even during it, he said that he literally in Evo Grand Finals against Daigo thought that Daigo had the greatest reads of all time, because he kept taking his throws, and when he would shimmy, he would just crouch light kick or something like that.
You sure it wasn't crouch check with crouching heavy punch? I think people knew maybe I'm wrong, but I think people knew crouch check at the time with light kick, but I don't think people knew like Rufus, you can crouch check with crouch fierce, other buttons. So if he went for dive kick, he would crouch heavy punch.
No, he said he did not know, if I'm not mistaken, because this is recent. Okay. I think he said he did not know at all that
if they had no idea that regular crouch check at that time, that's crazy to me. Because I know
think about that, bro. He swapped because his Rufus wasn't working. Like, it's not illegitimate. Like, Daigo's the GOAT, but I'm just saying, you get what that's not a fucking
right. So
fair fight.
you value more having an even field of information and people playing from that versus like people getting an edge because they're privy to more knowledge due to whatever circumstances.
There's people right now when I'm playing Street Fighter 6 that can beat me, that I'm far better than, and I can tell I'm far better than them. It's not like a ego thing. There's people that are better than me, and I can tell. But my proof of this is like literally, okay, maybe I'll play them today, and literally 2 days from now, or 1 day even, or 1 or 2 days from now, I will destroy them, because there's just an information gap on what your character does. That's just how fighting games work. If you don't have equal information, we aren't even playing the same game. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Like, I agree with what you're saying, and I do think it takes a lot longer to build the fundamental skill set, which is what you've done over the years, right? You have that, and I know that feeling too, right? You're playing someone, you're like, sometimes I'm losing. Even in 2xKO, I'll be playing someone, I'm like, I'm losing to this guy, but I know for a fact if I figure out the trick in this situation, I will never lose to them again. There's a trick here. And I'm getting in a looped offense sequence, and I'm like, I'm getting destroyed right now, but I know for a fact there's some kind of gap or something I'm not exploiting to shut this down and never lose again. And once you cross that barrier, your fundamentals carry you the rest of the way. They try that bullshit. Now I know swat the fly away, right?
Now he has to actually play you.
Right. But it's interesting. Like, I feel the same way as you, but like, you look at another game, like a more information-based game like chess or whatever, right? That's all there is an information gap. So is it really that much more like, is it really that much more valuable or that much more proper to have the fundamentals and be lacking the information and like, oh, I am the better player? Or if you win via an information gap, is that not just as valid, right? I kind of lean towards what you're saying. Like, I think the fundamentals are better because you'll probably go further over the long term. But information gap, that's a huge part of other games. That is a part of how other games operate. It's just knowing more than the opponent. You know?
Yeah, that is.
We don't value that much.
I just think in comparing 4, like I think in 4 the gap is far too wide for me to respect that information gap. You get what I'm saying? It was literally just I was born here, or like if
you're born in Japan,
if somebody has
and
more
had the arcades.
information, they just literally like you put in the work to read more chess books than me and to. You know, you studied harder and you did all this. It was just, I'm from California. I'm from New York. Oh, I'm from Ohio, so I'm gonna lose. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like that's not as, and the gap is so extreme, bro. Justin Wong was better than Daigo in that grand finals. That's my hot take. I guess you want to call it a hot take because he reset the bracket without knowing crouch tech exists, and he kept. That means he was better. But he ended up losing because there ain't no crouch take exists, you know?
So, what do you think, iDom? Do you think that counts? Because, like, how about this? Like, I mean, you know, you won Capcom Cup with Laura. Yeah. Some people would argue your fundamentals godlike. I'm not trying to.
Information gap. Oh, okay.
Some people might have argued that there might have been, for once, the information gap the other way, where the Japanese community was far behind in the Laura matchup because you were the Laura.
They were.
So, yeah, they were. But I think stuff like that is cool. I think having information gaps is a test. Like it's kind of there's a test tomorrow. You know there's a test tomorrow. You would study for the test. If you don't study for the test, that's your fault. Why didn't you study? So that's how I
don't think they could study for your test. I remember that they can't. They could.
You could study. You could study and maybe not be the best.
Yeah, but they were studying for the wrong class. You know what I'm saying? Like I kind of understand what Rob is saying. Like you thought it was a physics exam and it's like history or something. You're totally studying the wrong curriculum at that point. But there is a balance because it is super fucking sick when someone shows up to a tournament with a strategy that no one was ready for and they win with that. I think that's cool. I think when the right balance of information gap happens, it blows people's minds. And I think that leads to really entertaining events. And so, like, I think to me, that is like a skill. I think that makes it like if you have that ability to produce that in a game, have a hidden strategy, I think there's a little element of skill with that, which we've kind of lost. But I do agree. I think overall that means it's harder. But I do think that we lost a different element of skill expression. Having the surprise strategy, it's very hard to have that in this era with all the tools and the way the game engines are. It's very, just like in Street Fighter 4, I think there was an element of skill expression with execution. I do actually believe, to a degree, that was another vector to differentiate yourself with the players. It's not everything. I was leaning hard into it for the sake of the argument here. It's definitely not everything. I think strategy is more important. But that was an element. Sako just factually was different and better than other players because of and a no small part because of his execution, right? So I think we kind of lost that in this era, the surprise strategy. Have we been like really surprised? What's the last time we've been surprised like that?
I think the only thing that we could bring up is probably Mena doing so well with Blanca, and even then that's the surprise. But I think if you ask all of us, we all probably think Blanca's good at 6, so that's not really.
Yeah, but nobody has like top 5 or nothing like that. He ain't
nobody has him top 5, but at the same time, that's probably the last time we've been surprised by someone's gameplay, really.
You know, I would also, I want to make this concession too, like now that we're not doing Steelman, I do think that the average, how can I put this? The scrubbiness, right, of fighting games has increased tremendously with every passing fight. So out of all of our games, the least scrubby game is Street Fighter 4, in my opinion. Like, I think it's still hella scrubby stuff in it.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, the fact that if I play Street Fighter 4, bro, like, I really do think, which to me, for somebody who would be willing to put in all the hours I put in Street Fighter 5, I'd put the same hours in Street Fighter 4, that would have been easier for me to win consistently in the Street Fighter 5. You get what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't lose to no fucking randoms ever. The way this game is built right now, the mental stack and stuff, I'm talking to Shine, and he's like, I was asking about like studying for character matchups. He's like, honestly, I don't study character matchups as much. I do drills because he's like, I more so do drills of perfect parry or react to this and XYZ. And I'm like, damn, that's kind of ass. The fact that that's so important, you know?
Yeah, as someone who's competes in 6, I will have to say it's not really character matchups. Character matchups kind of don't matter anymore. Like we kind of lost that element. Like 4 does it better than 5. 5 had it still with like Laura and knowing how to fight like Balrog and all these other characters. But yeah, 6 kind of went away from that a lot. But I also think that's a blessing because there's a lot of people who don't like knowledge checks, kind of like what you're saying, Rob, are information gaps. Like, oh, this guy beat me, but he's just doing something scrubby with El Fuerte that I don't know how to stop. So, this game sucks. I'm going to play something else. At least in 6 is like, okay, he beat me. He might have throw looped me. I know how to get out of this throw loop. I just got to tech this time or wake up DP. Yeah. It's not an information gap. I know what to do.
That also makes it's more about read heavy. So yeah, it depends on what you value. Because even at the high level of Street Fighter 4, there was still tons of information because that game was so deep, and because of the execution requirement. Even if we had like the tools we have in Street Fighter 6, imagine like netcode, all that. Even if you had that, replay takeover might be your saving grace, but like even just recreating what someone did to you in that game you would actually have to master the character. Replay takeover might save you because you just hop in that situation, but without that, man, you'd be hard. People would do the gnarliest weird tech 5-layer OS on you. Momochi was doing like DP throw tech OS, man. Like for people who don't know, literally, I forget the exact details, but he had an OS at the end when he won EVO 2015, Capcom Cup 2014, and EVO 2015 with a lot of Ken. And part of that was like an OS where he would do like a throw, a crouch tech, and like a backdash and a DP, and it covered like 8 out of like 12 options. And it was like he would just hit you with these meaty ass DPs sometimes. It was some bizarre tech. He had a whole lecture about it. And like, how do you even begin to cross that barrier as a mid-level player?
Yeah,
but you look at boxing, like we just had Crawford Canelo, like in boxing, bro. Imagine if in boxing, which is only fighting with your hands, and one of the fighters somehow found some loophole that they allowed to start kicking the motherfucker, but the other fighter not allowed to kick. Bro, that's not God. Like if you beat him in this fight because you found this loophole and put in your contract, you was able to kick.
I really like that about fighting games, though. I really like the pushing the engine, and like, to me, there's this invisible barrier in every game, in every engine, that the developers created this sandbox that they're trying to get you to play in. But every once in a while, you find like a little leak in the wall. You know what I mean? And you're like, wait, what's that? What's that? And then you break that barrier and you completely change the way you can approach the game. And it's outside the realm of what like the invisible hand of the developer that was guiding you towards a certain path. And you suddenly take a new untrodden path. I love that shit. And I think fighting games is one of the best genres for exploring that. But, as we've gotten more, developers have gotten better at executing their vision, which means restricting the player. We've lost a lot of that. Like a lot of the great fighting games of our time, or before our time, really, that really made the genre what it is. MVC2, that was lightning in a bottle, man. That was a fucking freak accident. Like all that shit that happened in that game was not intentional. Even MVC3 was like the last element example of this, I think. And CVS2 roll canceling, that saved the game. That wasn't even intended to be in the game, right?
Melee is also very high up there too. Melee is perfect example. Nobody expected that game to play like that. But it sucks. But at the same time, I do like, from playing Marvel 3. I think one of my favorite tournaments was Kusuro won with Rocket, Beautiful Joe Francois. That was one of the hypest tournaments ever because that team sucks. But he came with a strategy and no one knew how to fight it.
Yep.
Stuff like that is hype. Like I think for Street Fighter 6, we would have to see like a Lily win a tournament with something. But even if Lily does like crouch heavy punch, drive rush, command grab, everyone's just gonna be like, yeah, it can happen to you. It can happen to anyone.
They got rid of jump tech command grab. They got rid of command grab jump. What was the name of it? Jump cancel command grab. So like we even had an element of that with grapplers, right? Doing jump cancel command grab, which means you could wake up with that, and if someone went for a meaty throw, you'd be airborne. The throw would whiff, and then they would cancel that to command grab and punish you. That's an example of like, I'm kind of breaking the bounds of the guiding hand of the developer, and Capcom came in swiftly and got rid of that.
Or what is it called? Homogeny. I don't, or whatever the fuck. Like, I don't like that. It's forced. You're forced more to be just streamlined. You have to play this way. Like, there's pros and cons, man. I personally, if I was a competitor, it would frustrate me that they want to make it more and more accessible for everybody, right? Like for iDom, I'm sure that's annoying as hell. But I also like the fact that it get more people to play. For example, I also like the fact that the game is balanced. I would like that as a competitor. Yeah. It's hard to have such a wide open sandbox and have a balanced game. The reason every single Street Fighter 6 character is viable is because the system mechanics make everybody viable. So you get to pick whoever you like.
Yeah. I think it's fine to, I definitely agree. There's different expectations now. Street Fighter 4, there's tons of characters that are just ass, right? But that's kind of part of the fun. And I think that's also part of the fun of like the Rocket Raccoon example. Like those characters are bad, and sometimes bad characters make things surprising. So I think that makes it more fun. But it also makes it a little bit more challenging as a competitor, because sometimes people come up with shit you just don't know, that information gap. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know. I do think Street Fighter 6 is the hardest to compete in overall. I don't think the game is random that much, but I do think the skill floor is a little bit like lower. That's easier to get in and it's riskier. But there's too many players now, and the level of stakes is too high. So I still got to go Street Fighter 6. But I don't know. What do you guys think? The audience, I'm curious.
It is the easiest to get scrubbed out in, though, bro. It is. Street Fighter 6 is the easiest to get scrubbed out in, though.
You think so? I don't know. Zangief,
man, hell yeah.
It depends on the level. Think about Street Fighter 4 Zangief. You got me thinking about this. I think at mid-level and low-level, I think Street Fighter 6 is the most fair and the most skill-based of all the fighting games. Because I think Street Fighter 5, at low-level, people are, there's still matchups and V-triggers. V-triggers are very nullifiable at high level, especially since they nerfed all of them. So you know the matchups, and you, like Abigail, whatever, you can V-shift this, whatever, you nullify. You know the trick. Low-level, mid-level, you're getting smoked, right? Street Fighter 4, low level, Zangief does Lariat or Command Grab, you're smoked, dude. Lariat is like, you can mash Lariat with Zangief in Street Fighter 4 and beat all your friends right now. They will not beat you. Just press three buttons, whatever, over and over, and you win. So I think Street Fighter 6 is actually the most skill-based game at low and mid-level, because it's like, this is how you play. Do it. Like, DI beats DI, parry beats this, throw beats that. This is it. So I think at low level, mid level, it's the most skill based game by far.
Hey, Brian, I know you're gonna close the video. The one thing I want to make sure I mention too, because one thing that's really cool with Street Fighter 6 is, I know people talk about this lower skill floor, which I also even mentioned, but again, content creators, but outside of this content creators, bro, the fact that they have the character guides and stuff, bro, like that didn't exist back in the day. The fact that you can this is your first time really playing a fighting game or learning a fighting game, and you go to the Bison character guide, the Ryu character, and it's showing you every normal and what you can do with the normal and what the developer is intending, and use this as a poke to control this space. Use this as a whiff punish. This is a good anti-air option. That type of stuff makes it so that you are thinking about concepts that you never would have thought about when we were first picking up a fighting game. I didn't even know nothing about a lot of stuff that they're talking about. So I think that and replay takeover also makes it so that people are gonna like, if my point is, if Street Fighter 4 was here today, but it had replay takeover, it had character guides, and it didn't even have more people, it had the same amount of people, the exact same people, but you gave them these content creators, these character guides, replay takeover, you will also see more upsets, actually, I think, even in that game.
So funny you bring that up. I have a hot take. If every character, if you could do if they gave Street Fighter 4 the buffer window that 5 and 6 had, I think that game would just be like, it would be sporadic, kind of like Rob said. Nobody would, like, people would be getting got constantly. You'd be like, oh, I got knocked down by Akuma, or Fuerte hit me, or whoever it might be. Abel knocked me down.
Yeah.
If you didn't have to worry about Joe Schmo dropping his combo, I think we have just as much episode.
I cannot overstate how much the execution assistance from the input buffer has changed the way the games are thought about in balance. I'm not exaggerating that. The fact that I could wake up DP in Street Fighter 4 and you are likely to drop the combo if you are not a top level player. You're going to, I don't care. Like, I'm just like, I'm gonna outnewt you. If you happen to knock me down, I'm probably gonna reversal if I don't think you're a good player, because I don't even care if you're gonna punish me. Because you're probably going to get a throw at best, right? So I do think that the consequences of changing the game from not having an input buffer to having one completely changes how we think about everything. Everything. For better or for worse, it just changes everything.
There was no counter hit also for deep. You had reversal DP in Street Fighter 4 meterless.
Right. They wanted you to go back to neutral more often. Unless you had a vortex to nullify it. Yeah. This is different. Very different.
Yeah, like, there wasn't even a counter hit for getting deep for DP, right? Like if you block my DP, I just take a regular combo. I don't take a counter hit like Street Fighter 5 or punish counter like Street Fighter 6, I think.
Exactly. And people could drop it, which they often did. So you would have to hedge your bets. Like, let me go for a real basic baby combo here just to get guaranteed damage sometimes. Or you're godlike and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna flex on them right now. And either you get it and you get a little bit more damage, or you don't and they mash another DP and you eat shit, right? So just different era, different game. Hard to compare them. Hard to compare them for sure. But I do think the input buffer is like the most consequential change we've had so far. Anyways, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. In the comments, I want to hear the debate. I feel like this is going to be a good one. Remember, we're trying to steel man each argument. Don't take us. People are going to be pissed hearing these.
No, I'm already ready for the comments for me. I'm cooked.
Yeah, you're definitely cooked. I'm going to be a little bit cooked. iDom's going to be roasted. I think Rob's going to be the people's champ in this episode for sure.
We'll see just because I had 6 for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how it pans out. All right, thanks for listening. This has been Extra Trashy. We're signing off. Peace. Thank you for making it to the end of another episode of Extra Trashy. This one was a lot of fun debating with Rob and iDom. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you're watching on a video feed on Spotify or YouTube, you should be seeing a bunch of names scrolling by right now. These are our Patreon members over at patreon.com/Brian_F. And this show is possible due to their support. I'd like to thank personally our landfill members, SBO, Chuckle Chuck, Hasris, Kelly Lyles, and Smoking Seabass for their continued support. If you want to support this show, you can head over to patreon.com/Brian_F. There we have both free and exclusive paid content like early access to mainline Trash Talk episodes, gaming tutorials, and behind the scenes content. So if you're interested and want to support, you can head on over to that page. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Catch you in the next one. Peace.